First of all, thank you for being here today on a rainy day, and thank you to 1 Million Cups for the opportunity to do this. My name is Jack Giddens. Our company is RCI Health Metrics. We're based here in Pensacola, Florida. We have our IT director, Chris Pikett, who's here, and again, he's going to be available during the Q&A time. And Jenny Lanham is going to be here. She's a director. She was our first client, and she beta tested our product for a year, and she drove 3 hours this morning to be here. So, for being here this morning, I'm really grateful. What I'm going to do is talk about 5 things. One is, who are we? What do we do? Where do we do it? Why are we doing it? And then 5 challenges that we currently have. And I really want your help with the challenges when we get to the QA part. So I would really welcome that. So first off, who are we? I founded the company in 2017. I'm a professor at UWF. I've been there for 10 years, but for 12 years, I was a healthcare chaplain. And during that time, I was able to create a platform that is essentially what we call quantitative-based chaplaincy. We're talking about healthcare chaplaincy. It's a platform that measures the impact that chaplains are making on the patient in quantitative terms, which is a very unique innovation. In fact, nobody's doing it at all. And I did this in collaboration with Dr. Harold Koenig at Duke Medical School. He's a psychiatrist and a professor there. He's a world-renowned researcher. So the platform has a really strong theoretical and scientific and research basis to it. So that's essentially who we are. What do we do? The Spiritual Comfort Index, as I say, is the healthcare industry's first quantitative-based platform for practicing spiritual care. And again, it measures the difference that chaplains make with the patient in quantitative terms. As of January of 2020 this year, we have begun monetizing it. And we currently have 3 contracted clients. We have 6 more who are committed and are working on the contracts. Then we have 28 new prospects who are currently reviewing it at this time to see about licensing it. So the platform is being used in 6 hospitals currently, and if these commitments all come together, they will, right? They will. We'll have 33 more. So we're kind of like an airplane, kind of just getting the front wheel off the ground a little bit. Hopefully we'll clear the trees, but we'll see. That's what we're trying to do at this point. Okay. Why we do what we do? In 2010, the healthcare world changed, right? Because of the Affordable Care Act. And what this means now is that providers have to demonstrate in quantitative terms the difference they make with patients according to quality outcome measures. And if they don't get paid. That's the new deal. So no more just all kinds of nice tests and all that. No. You have to prove the difference you make and be efficient and that sort of thing. What we're doing is getting healthcare chaplaincy in alignment with that. Okay, because at some point we anticipate that the same will hold true for healthcare chaplains. Okay, so that's why we're doing what we do. Where we do it. At this point, the market is vast. All right, there are over 6,000 hospitals, 4,000 hospices, 7,000 urgent care centers, 28,000 nursing homes, ALFs, skilled nursing facilities, and over 200,000 physician group practices who could use our product. So there's over 300,000 potential institutions, and given our current pricing model for licensing, it's about a $3 billion plus market. We are the only one. Which sounds good. Sounds good, but then whoa, right? We've got a ton of market out there, and we're just a startup, right? So, and eventually we want to be worldwide in what we're doing, of course. All right. Challenges. Let me get to the challenges to what we do. There are 5 key challenges so far. One is the complexity and the time span between initial contact of the client and then signing the contract. You go on for 9 months, right? Because the vice president of this and that and this and that and this and that has to pat it. I call it the paranoid pat, where you got to make sure it doesn't cost you your job, kind of thing, right? The industry is in a lot of flux and a lot of fear, and I appreciate the vetting process. On the other hand, how do we simplify the contracting process so that we can get them signed and get them moving and using the product? That's a key challenge here. Number 2, creating what we're calling urgency of demand. There is strong demand for this. 9 out of 10 directors who look at this go, yes, this is what we need. This is excellent. This is going in the right direction, right? At the same time, they're kind of like, but nobody's making us do it, right? So we can kind of float it, and if it takes a long time or whatever, or that kind of thing. What we need is if possible, is some sort of outside demand force. Like if CMS or private providers stepped forward and said, guess what, we're not going to give you pass-through dollars for your chaplaincy departments unless you can show us that your chaplains are producing some kind of positive patient health outcome in numerical terms with the patient. Then things would rain down nicely on us, right? Then that would change our business, right? But at this point, there is demand, but there's not a high degree of urgency demand. So the question is, how do we create that urgency? That's something I would like for you to open my eyes to, possibly. Number 3, directors are not used to paying for this, right? Because it's new, and there's no such thing as a chaplain product in chaplaincy departments. And so it's actually a lot of money for chaplaincy departments, even though it's a rounding error on the hospital's budget, and it's a tiny amount for a hospital. It'd be easy for a hospital to pay for it, but it's not for, do I need to go forward?
Yeah.
Sorry, a little slip up there. So we need directors to be able to pay for it. Number 4, there are chaplains who still sort of are in the past when it comes to healthcare. And that is, chaplains are kind of the mystical employees who kind of float around the building, and they're wonderful, and they're loving, they care for people, but they've never been told to actually make a difference with the patient in numerical terms. So they need a paradigm shift to be able to see themselves, instead of the clergy bringing the church into the hospital, instead they are professional healthcare employees who are responsible for making a difference with the patient in quantifiable terms. So that's a challenge we have too. Some chaplains are that way, not all of them, and not even most of them, but some of them are. Then finally, there is a significant need for marketing and for funding, money, capital, right? Because we have a lot of marketing to do, right? Because you have to get out to all of these people and meet them face to face, that sort of thing. We have a lot of product development statistics, a lot of things that we can do with the client, and it's going to take capital to do that. And finally, we want to be able to make this interface with electronic medical record systems so that physicians can see our statistic there and factor that into their decision making, which then of course creates increasing value for what we do. So those are the challenges we have at this point. All right, at this point I'm going to have Jenny come up. Again, Jenny's been a director. She's been in the field for 30 years. She's used the product. She can speak to the client perspective.
So, good morning. Thank you for your encouraging welcome earlier. We used this product beginning last year at a 742-bed healthcare facility in Tallahassee, a community-based hospital. And we've been fortunate. I've been able to do a business plan in my hospital, and we've been able to increase the number of chaplains at this hospital. And how many of you are chaplains here? Oh, good. Well, this woman knows chaplains are non-revenue producing people in the hospital, and so we're overhead. And so it's quite a coup to be able to say, well, I not only doubled the size of my staff, but I also was able to get money to have a 5-person clinical pastoral education department for students who would also staff the hospital, so we could do this 24/7. And when we met Jack told me about his product, and I said, I've been a chaplain 30 years, and I remember the day when I used to say, you cannot quantify the Holy Spirit in the work of ministry. And at the time, I didn't realize I was being stupid and arrogant, but I was, because I didn't know how. Jack's product is the first product of its kind that gave me some hope that this could happen. So I said, we want to try this here. So we did a quality improvement study at our hospital, using this on selected patients, because it doesn't work for every patient. You have to be a verbal patient, you have to be able to have cognitive abilities to answer the questions. But chaplaincy, what we learned is that you could take his model and seamlessly integrate it into a spiritual care visit. And within the first 5 minutes of engaging the patient around what's happening with them, you could help them go very deep, very quickly around their suffering. And it's a game changer. It was a game changer for us. And the chaplains who were doing this said, oh my gosh, I'm having the most wonderful visits with people because I'm asking them the questions that are really significant to them. I always tell my students, nobody comes to the hospital for a spa day. When you come into the hospital, you're hurting, you don't feel good, your future may be at risk because you may not even know what's wrong with you. That translates into some form of suffering, right? Where it's maybe not be physical yet, but it is existential and oftentimes emotional. And so this is a way to get students involved in that and to say and to realize they don't know what they don't know yet. So we haven't tried it with students yet because they need to learn some very basic skills before they learn this, but my staff loved it. So this is what we learned, that we assisted patients in increasing their spiritual coping skills, which then resulted in a decrease in the patient's suffering. And by our counts, over a 5-month period, we saw a 57% reduction in patient suffering with the folks that use this tool. So, I mean, Jack's a great person, and he gets you very fired up with his vision. But then when we used it, we realized this is really significant, and it could be a game changer for the whole profession. So I came today to speak as a consumer and to hear what you have to say, because we're very interested in seeing this company flourish. And so.
Great. Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And we have Chris Pagan here. He's not only a tech wizard, but he's also a registered nurse. And anything you want to say, Chris?
There is. This is equivalent, or this is the starting period for the Spiritual Comfort Index, where the pain assessment scale was for nursing back in the 80s, early 80s, whenever it first came out. Now it's a standard across the board. You go to the hospital, you are being asked, can you rate your pain scale for me? This is the exact same thing, just for spiritual comfort. How can you rate that for me? And then what are the implications for healthcare overall whenever it comes to taking this information and utilizing it for patient care, for therapy, for whatever. I mean, the possibilities are really endless whenever it comes to this. But that's where we're at right now, 37 years ago.
Yeah, fantastic.
Great, thank you.
Also, I have a book on this, so if anybody wants a free book, I bought a couple of free books on this. It'll give you the theory, how when I got fired, it really motivated me to prove that we make a real difference, it was years ago. But, just want to say that we just believe that this could potentially be somewhat transformational, for the field, at least for our profession. But it should really help the field and move chaplains into the mainstream of healthcare, because we're moving in a palliative direction where palliative means holistic, treating the whole person, not just isolating the body, but paying attention to the soul, the mind, the spirit, however you conceptualize that, whether you're with Aristotle or Plato, I don't know. But we're excited about this, and we believe that this can really get to the core mission of minimizing patient suffering, which is what this is all about. At this point, I would love to have take Q&A at this point, and some suggestions on, and of course, I'm really interested in the business part of it, so some of the challenges that we have from a business point of view, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Yes?
Do you have a specific niche of hospital in mind? Like she mentioned 742-bed community, are you going to narrow it in on that?
Yeah, so here's the issue is the hospital tends to need to be large enough to have chaplains.
Yeah.
We're typically targeting hospitals 500 and above, but we're going to eventually be open to everyone, and we are open to everyone. But those are kind of our partner clients, the ones that we're focusing on right now. But yeah, typically larger. So yeah.
How are you creating the urgency now for people to see the products need?
Great question. I'm building the bridge as I walk on it, brother. That's really. You show them this and they go, yes, we get it. And by the way, we actually did a study earlier. HCAP scores were 15.5% higher for patients treated using the platform compared to not. We now have a company that's figuring out what that saves the hospital. So we're trying to get a financial value to that. That's when we can create a little more urgency of demand. But the other thing too is maybe the need to talk to the vice president level, to get these vice presidents to show them what this can do for their hospital. Maybe that would do it. You know, I would, again, I'd love for CMS to come forward and mandate it, because then it'd be easy, but that's not the case.
In addition to emphasizing any savings, I believe, by the way, I'm Felicia Morgan, I'm a marketing professor, so.
Fantastic.
In addition to emphasizing the savings to the hospital, there can be some reputational effects, positive reputational effects, when people do have some kind of a choice for the type of facility that they're in. And so if you can build on that value add in terms of, we have this this here, we have our chaplains here, and just building on the reputational effects that can then translate to your top line.
So for example, you can go and look up the hospital's HCAP scores. Let's go look up their SCI
Yes,
comfort
and-
level scores, or if they utilize it, or if it's endorsed.
Exactly, and this may also, I noticed you had skilled nursing facilities and assisted living. The family comes into play here, and I definitely wrote that down, engaging with the family
Sure.
of people who maybe are not quite capable of expressing themselves, and they might be in these types of facilities. So just consider that.
Okay, great, thank you, thank you. Yes?
How are you billing? How do you price this?
Oh, the way we have it priced at this point is it's $1 times the number of beds per institution per month. So let's say you have a 500-bed hospital, it's $6,000 a year. You know.
It's not a lot whenever you think about a 15%
Oh, is that not a lot?
decrease.
Because see, I'm a chaplain, you know, I'm like, so you want a piece of chicken, a couple of fries for this, you know, I mean, I'm thinking in terms of keeping the price down because you're dealing with chaplains, but that's not a lot of money to a hospital.
Eventually, once it's tied to HCAPs, of course, the price is going to go up.
May I suggest following up on that question?
Sure.
So that's a very low price point, so the perceived
Really?
values may be very
Oh,
low.
yeah, it's
So
low.
there's a certain impression that you make in the market with a new product, so it's not unusual for entrepreneurs to undervalue. I would just suggest that you reconsider what your list price is and what your early adopter discount is, because that can be a valuable psychological tactic in terms of approaching a new market with a new product.
You know, this is normally $100,000 a year, but for our early adopters, we're going to give you our beta test price.
But because, especially if you're ever going to go GSA for the VA or the military healthcare systems,
We're doing that.
you're going to have to understand that they're going to look at your best commercial price points and hold you to that level. So do not kill yourself entering that market segment in the future by underpricing it today.
That is
Just
so
a thought.
interesting. But do I need to go to the VP,
Go to the
don't talk to the
CEO.
COO about
Go
this?
to the
You
board.
always shoot high because they're riding Shetland ponies, as Louis Broussard wrote. But you want to go to the C-suite. The bean counters, of which I am a recovering CPA kind of person. So the CFOs are great salespeople for you because they're selling internally above and laterally
Okay.
on ideas. They have to have a payback model. You
Okay.
sound like you're right on the edge of creating case study data of an ROI case, which would be very, very important not only for selling, but for assessing your price point strategy.
Okay.
And finally, one final thing.
Please.
So somebody mentioned the pain point scale of the 80s, which every healthcare place you go, there's a scale. It's
Every single room.
horizontal, and it's got the icons from 0 to 10. So just as a humorous thought I had, so what would be your iconic representation of the spiritual comfort index? You can noodle on that.
What does a suffering face look like?
I don't know.
Compared
Just
to
like-
a painful face.
Similar.
Similar.
I
Yeah, very similar.
suggest Yoda might be one of them.
Oh, boy.
How about a little small halo, and the halo gets bigger, they have a
There you
weird
go.
person.
I know.
Something.
No, I hear you, and yeah, we would love to say, you go to the doctor, you should get a BMI, you should get the blood pressure, you should get an SCI test. Absolutely, no questions asked. It should be. That's where we want it to be. We hope that Harold's going to help us get there too, because he's the world's leading expert in the whole deal. So.
Any more burning questions at all? If not, the last question we always ask Jack is, what can the community do for you?
Money. This is really helpful because it helps me see a bigger picture. I think that's really interesting advice. You know, maybe just if you have any further ideas for me, don't hesitate to email me or, or contact me, and I would love to hear what you say.
You have some cards I can have everybody, or?
Don't have any cards, but I can make that, make this available somehow to you, so let me know if you're.
You have my business card, so.
I do, I can. But thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you, Jack.